Good afternoon and welcome to the meeting of the Hingham Municipal Lighting Plant Board, March 18th at 4 p.m. Excuse me. This meeting is being held remotely as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 and all other applicable laws, temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You're hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Hingham in accordance with the open meeting law. If any participant wishes to record this meeting, please notify the chair at the start of the meeting in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, so that the chair may inform all other participants of said recording. Excuse me. Is there anybody else besides the light plant who would like to record this meeting today? Okay, seeing none, first item on the agenda is Tom is going to discuss with us the Energy Facility Siting Board hearing on our transmission project coming up.
Yes, we have two hearings coming up on in Weymouth on March 25th at 6:30 at the Chapman School. And then there will be one in Hingham at Town Hall on January 31st, Monday. Again, 6:30. March 31st. Yep. So the 31st, the 25th, and then 31st in Hingham.
Also at 6:30?
Also at 6:30.
Okay.
They're widely posted. You know, the siting board had requirements for our, posting these meetings. There were legal notices in the Herald and the Patriot Ledger. There were press releases to the Patriot Ledger and the press, the Hingham Journal, Hingham Anchor. We also sent out letters on our own to each customer. So you should have got a letter in the mail from each customer. And then anyone we had an email address also got an email from us with the information on the meeting. So they are widely publicized. And again, they're not really Hingham's meetings. They're the meetings of the siting board. So the siting board, they're a hearing that the siting board conducts to get public comment. So we'll do a short presentation at the meeting, but the siting board will run the meeting and take questions and that type of thing. So.
Okay, it's great. We're moving forward. I'm going to try to be there, but I haven't cleared my calendar yet. I'm working on that. Any comments or questions from the board or the public on these meetings?
I guess the other thing is if someone did want to speak at the meeting, the public officials, anyone that's a public official in any capacity, has the opportunity to speak first at the meetings.
Okay. I don't think I'll be doing that.
Yeah.
But I would like to see how the process goes.
Yeah. And they're on Zoom, so they're a hybrid meeting, so they're in person.
Oh, okay.
And on Zoom.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Very good.
Are they being recorded?
That I don't know. We had to hire a company, Boston Audio Rentals, that sets up the halls, the venues with the speakers and the audio and all that. And they have the ability to make it a hybrid meeting. So I would think if it's a hybrid that there would be some recording of it. I can find out though on that.
Okay, maybe you could ask them and we could just record
I'll
it
check with Rob Shapiro and see
on general principles so that we would have it.
Yeah.
It would be good to retain any comments from the public. That would be valuable, I would think.
And I'm sure the siting board, again, it's their meeting, they record all of that, any questions or there's chances for people to become interveners and things like that. So
will they make that all that information accessible to us after the hearing?
I would say they would have to make that accessible to us. Yep.
Okay, great. Anything else on the EFSB hearings from the board or the staff or the public? Okay, next item on the agenda is voting on the voluntary, it has a new title, the voluntary earned surplus payment to the town of Hingham. And this is the time of year that we usually do this, right? It's after we've kind of clarified what the bottom line was for last year and so forth. And the amount proposed for this year is $471,484, which is pretty much in line with our yearly contribution to the town. Any comments or questions from the board on this? We did learn from our attorney that this is something the board should vote on, so we're going to be voting on this each year going forward. Questions or comments from the board, staff, or the public on the voluntary payment to the town for this year from the light plant? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the amount of $471,485 for the voluntary earned surplus payment to the town of Hingham for this year.
So moved.
Second.
Great. All in favor, Tyler,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Laura, aye. Great, thanks very much. On to the heat pump forum on Saturday. Catch us up. Brianna, how's it going?
It's going great. Yep. So Saturday, 12 to 3 at the Hingham House of Prayer, 916 Main Street. We're providing free lunch to people who attend. Right now, we're expecting about 150 people to come. We have over 100 people registered at this point, and that's not counting any volunteers or people we consider like usual suspects that go to a lot of the meetings. So that's very promising. I've been getting a couple more every day. So I think we have a chance of people not registering and still coming. So that's why I think we're going to plan for about 150 people. Total registrations, it's about 130 right now. I'm really thankful for all the volunteers that have been stepping up to help with the event. Joanne Heilman has been helping me co-coordinate all of it. Maria Zaid is leading our waste management and helping make the entire event zero waste. Peter Swanson donated a bokashi compost so we can compost everything, including the plates, cups, utensils, everything. And Recycle MA is making signs for us related to the waste. Members of the Hingham Climate Action Commission and Hingham Net Zero have been volunteering and getting the word out on this. We also have a couple of high school volunteers who have signed up and they'll be there helping us out. So myself and the volunteers, schedule-wise, will be getting there a little bit early on Saturday. But at 12 o'clock, the public guests will start arriving. They'll come to a registration table where we'll get them checked in, give them some raffle tickets, and they can go over to a refreshment area and we'll have the information tables for them. The information tables will be our registration table, like I mentioned. The two raffle baskets people have the option to do is say,
What can we win?
What?
What can we win?
Yes, I'm actually looking at them right now. We have a smart home basket and a kids public power basket. So people have the choice. We'll give them 2 tickets. So they can either put one in each, or like maybe they don't have any kids that they want to give the basket to. So they'll just put them both in the smart home one. But the smart home one, like both of them have a kilowatt reader to show energy usage. We have a power strip in the smart home one, smart plugs, a couple light bulbs, an HMLP hat and a shirt. The kids public power one has a build your own bucket truck and some fun coloring pages, an EV coloring book, energy saving playing cards, a Frisbee, don't touch power lines, and another kilowatt reader and a bucket hat for kids. So it's a cute little couple baskets, just to get people to kind of stay through the end, because we'll pull those at the end and they have to be there to get the basket. We'll have a Hingham Light table at the event. We'll have the Hingham Climate Action Commission and Energy Action Committee will be sharing a table. Hingham Net Zero, Abode Energy, and they're going to bring hopefully some heat pumps to actually show at the event. I'm not 100% sure if they've found their heat pumps yet, but they have one, they said. Energy New England is going to be there signing up people for energy assessments on site. Next Zero is coming to sign up people for demand response on site. CET is coming to talk about how to finance a heat pump project. So they'll have a table there so that people can talk to them and get connected if they need project financing. And then around 12:30, so all that's happening in half an hour. And around 12:30, we're going to start kind of ushering people towards where the presentations will be. They'll grab lunch on their way inside, so we hope that that'll keep them seated. The presentations will take about an hour and a half. I'll do an introduction, and then State Representative Joan Moschino will speak. We'll have Brad Moyer from the HCAC talk about the town of Hingham's goals. Noel Chambers from E&E will talk about energy assessments and getting that efficiency first, what to do before you get a heat pump. And then we'll get into the actual heat pump nitty gritty with a BODE. You know, what is it, how to get one. And then Zoe from Next Zero will talk about demand response, connecting heat pumps with this larger idea of the grid and how they can have that smart home, connect their thermostats. And then we'll end it with CET when they can talk about financing that project. And hopefully I'll come up, do a wrap up, and we'll do the raffles and then give everybody a break and then come back and do a Q&A session. And then that'll be the end of the event, probably around 3 o'clock. Things always run late, so maybe it'll run a little bit late, but we hope to have it all cleaned up by 4. So I guess if there's anything that you would like to see at the HMLP table, let me know, because I'm putting together the different flyers. Right now I'm planning to have a flyer with all of our Electrify Hingham rebates, and then a flyer with all of our billing and payment programs, the discounts, things like that.
I think you've got it covered. That's great. So I'm very excited. I can't wait to be there.
Is
Great.
there a plan to record any of the sessions or all of the sessions?
Oh, yes, Harbor Media is going to record the whole
Excellent.
presentation for us. Yep.
It's great.
If all 3 of you are planning to attend, Laura, I know you've registered. Do we have to post a board meeting for that?
We don't. We're not going to deliberate on anything while we're at the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, great. So does anybody, other than Michael Tyler, any staff or any members of the public, comments or questions on our heat pump forum that's coming up on Saturday?
Oh, I have one more thing, actually. If
Yeah.
anybody would like to stand at the HMLP table, Tom will be there at the event. I'll be there, obviously, but I'm going to be running around most likely. So if anybody's there and wants to stand at the table and hand out the flyers, you're more than welcome to. And light bulbs. We'll have light bulbs.
I'm sure I can do some of that.
Okay.
Okay, can't wait. Next item on the agenda is the large building reporting regulations and the clean heat standard draft proposal by the Department of Energy Resources. And Tom, you're gonna speak to this.
Yeah, so these have the Department of Energy Resources has come out and said that the municipal light plants will fall under these programs. MEME is in the process of trying to fight these, and they're looking for obviously the boards to help support this. So I guess with the large building reporting, that's going to require HMLP to report the usage of a number of large buildings within Hingham. There'll be a website on the state website. We'll have a list of buildings that we'll have to report on an annual basis. I think it's annually, what the building's usage is to the state. And again, it's not a huge lift, probably a few hours for someone at HMLP to do this work. For smaller municipal light plants, it's probably a bigger lift.
So Tom, a question on that.
Yeah.
Are the reportees going to be named, or is it just on a building and an address?
We will, my understanding is that we will be reporting for the owners of the buildings. So that it'll be,
So
their information
Number
will be
of
made
tenants, it
public.
would all be cumulative for Derby Street shops, for example? Or would it be specifically per business, per meter?
I think it would be for Derby Street Shop where there's one
Okay.
owner, but we would have to accumulate that for the entire building. I'm not sure on that, but it could be by meter too. I'm not sure.
Okay.
The other piece is the clean heat standard that the DOER is proposing. So that will require us to meet the electrification of a certain number of buildings every year, starting in 2026. So I have a spreadsheet here I can share to.
Let me just, the decisions that we have to make. Meme wants support for
So they would like,
opposition to these two sets of
Well,
regulations. Is that
again,
what-
these are regulations by the Department of Energy Resources. So memes, thing with this is we're not regulated by the Department of Energy Resources. The boards in the town have local control. So if the board should decide that, we want to release the large building information, that's something the board can decide. If the board decides that we want to electrify however many, have a plan to electrify a number of buildings within Hingham, the board should be able to decide that. We shouldn't be regulated under the state. That's the whole thing with public power is we're local control, right? So if, the other thing they would like us to do is to become part of the Mass Save program. So again, all these programs cost money, and which is okay. But that should be a decision made by the board, and the rates should be controlled by the board. So whatever decisions we make should be based on the money we get. Now, if we get pushed into these programs, like into the clean heat standard, so that's a $6,000 per household payment incentive that we would have to pay to each customer that decides to electrify. $12,000 for each low income customer that electrifies. If we don't meet the number of customers that in that goal, then we pay a compliance payment of that $6,000 or $12,000. That compliance payment goes to the state. It's probably not going to be used in Hingham, right? It's going to be used someplace else. So the whole premise of this letter would be that municipalities, electric light plants are locally controlled, and the board makes those decisions, not the Department of Revenue, the Department of Energy Resources. We've never been under their regulations before, and we shouldn't be at this point. So that is really what MEME is trying to fight. Again, we can spend whatever we want on these programs, but it should be the board's decision on what we spend and how we spend it and where it's spent.
So I did watch the presentation that you sent to us. I read the slides and realized that that was hopeless. So I actually listened to the presentation, and I heard that if we do not, as a utility, get credit for, say, a full home electrification, then if we don't, there's a certain number of those that we need to meet per year, and we don't meet that, then we need to pay the alternative compliance payment of 6,000 to 10,000, depending.
Yep.
But I didn't hear that we are required to provide a rebate to customers of $6,000 if they do a full home in fact, I was so unclear, and I think the presenters were also very unclear
Yeah, no,
about how MLPs fit into a program like this. And I just want to say that I understand where Meme is coming from. Yeah, we have never been regulated by the state before. But the problem is, at some point, the state or the legislature could decide to change that. The legislature can change that. And because there has been no engagement with the people who are writing these programs, because the attitude is just say no, whatever it is, just say no. That's how you end up with a program like this that seems to have no place in it where an MLP makes sense. And you could imagine designing a program that does have a sensible place in it for an MLP. This isn't it. But that's because we haven't been talking to them. And so I just want to mention that the next meeting of the Massachusetts Light Commissioners Association, which is a week from Thursday, March 27th in the evening, the same people who presented that that presentation that you sent to us, Tom, are going to be at that meeting to discuss what is the role of MLPs in this program, which at this point is really, really unclear. And that's the kind of engagement I think we should be having. And what we have right now is just a draft program. They're not even, it's not even regulations yet.
right.
It's a draft
Yeah,
that we could have influence in if we were willing to engage. And that would be my personal choice if it were up to me, which of course it's not. But I would rather see us engaging with these regulators and coming up with something that makes sense for us. Because I really do worry that at some point the legislature is going to decide, okay, no more just say no. We're going to make MLPs subject to regulation under DOER, and we're going to get this kind of program that doesn't make sense for us dropped on us. And if we haven't, I've already met with these two people who did that presentation in a pre-meeting for the Light Commissioners Association to talk about what they're going to be going over. And they are really eager to have our input and to understand what our issues are. And I'm kind of not wanting to take any steps today until we've had that meeting and had the opportunity ourselves to clarify so much of what is so unclear. You know, they talk about people do a whole home electrification and it generates credits which belong to the homeowner. The expectation is that the homeowner will sell it to the homeowner will grant, well, the homeowner might grant it to their installer because the installer's price includes the credit, which they can then sell, very similar to Rex. But then they talk about, okay, what about things done under Mass Save? And Mass Save provides a huge incentive. And so Mass Save gets the credit for that. So so the gas in our case, National Grid gets the credit for that electrification. But they offer these vague things like, well, or the utility themselves can engage in creating clean heat stuff. They don't specify how we could do that. What is their idea? And then aspects of things that they don't even bring into is like having a rate that's half of what Eversource charges or National Grid is an incentive to adopt electricity as a heating source. Where's our credit for that? Because that incentive is going to go away if they make us charge our customers for these programs. So these are the conversations I feel like they haven't even thought of that. They don't even know they don't know who we are. They don't know what we do. They don't know how we work. So anyway, I have a lot of complaints about this program, but I'm not sure that I favor Meme's approach. And I feel like I'd rather go to this meeting with them next week and evaluate where things are after that, after they have talked with us and maybe understand a little bit better what our issues are. So that's my thinking about it. Let me ask the rest of my board what your thinking is.
I think my comment would be is that the state has a roadmap to get us to where we need to be on carbon reduction, and they have to bring in all the stakeholders under DOER to show that we are sustainably and credibly getting to those levels of carbon reduction. So we are one of the stakeholders. We are one of the 41 MLP stakeholders, as are Eversource and National Grid and all the other utilities. So I think you want a seat at the table. You want to be part of the discussion. And I certainly agree with everything Laura said, that it's much better to be participatory in this process than to hold up a no vote.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to be engaging with these folks. And in the end, if we decide that we don't like whatever program they produce, we can always exercise that no vote at that point in time.
Yeah, I'd like to get a little bit deeper into it. So many unanswered questions because they don't have answers.
Oh, I
So
know.
now's the
Yeah.
time for us to be asking them.
Yeah.
You were going to say something, Tom?
No, I'm fine with that. I just, again, for me, I guess it's more about the local control and you having the voice of what's going to happen within Hingham.
I would love to see a program that we could opt into and, participate with the other utilities. But it's got to make sense for us. Anyway, so I suggest we, those of us who can attend that meeting next week, it's border staff are invited, and if you don't have the link to register for it, email me and I'll send it to you if you'd like to attend border staff. And see if we can get some answers for some of these questions that are really going around in my head now. So, any other comments from the staff or the public on either the large building reporting issue or the clean heat standard proposed by DOER? Okay, seeing none, moving on to the next item on the agenda, which was, I sent you a proposed policy for the new commissioner handbook. Brianna, if you allow me, I'll just stick it up on the screen to make it easy to look at. Okay. Here we go. Nope. That's the agenda, sorry.
That was
try
showing
that.
the handbook.
It
was? Oh,
yeah.
okay. I was seeing the agenda because it's up
Oh, that's
in
the
front of
agenda.
this. Come on. Now what do you see?
The agenda.
Okay, try again. Here we go. Ah,
There it is. Yep.
Perfect.
really? No, I'm seeing the agenda. I don't get it. Hang on. Let me fix my screen because I'm the one who's having the problem here. There we go. Okay, so this is just basically the only thing I sort of added since we discussed it last week is I said that it should be in the commissioner's preferred format, either digital or physical. I added onto the list the first item, which is Duncan Allen's memo on general manager versus board roles, which I hadn't seen before and which I thought was extremely helpful. And then the other items are all of the board's policies, the org chart, general manager's contract, attorney general's handbook on the open meeting law, secretary of state's guide to the public records law. And Tyler mentioned, knowing how we have to comply with the conflict of interest law training, which isn't a handbook, it's like an online training. So just a written explanation of what the requirements are for that. And I added the budget and the capital plan, the current budget and the capital plan, and anything else that the board chair or the general manager thinks advisable. Is there anything else think we should add to this list?
I think that looks good.
Okay.
Laura, when
yeah.
you say board chair, does that mean your opinion or the opinion of the board? Or is it something that we have to discuss, or can any board member add something to the list? just for
Oh.
clarification.
So I said board chair, but if you want it to be any board member, I don't see why not. Um, unless you get a rogue board member and they want to append the New York City phone book or something, and you want the chair to be the voice of reason. I don't know. I try to imagine what could go wrong with that.
No.
Because this is a policy. Maybe a board member could suggest something to the board chair.
Yeah,
And then,
or something that the board has discussed.
oh, you want the board to discuss it?
Well, we're discussing everything now, so I think there's a valid reason for discussing things openly before it goes into the policy.
I'm confused. So
Maybe
are you
at the end,
talking?
it's as discussed by the board and with the approval of the board chair or something.
Sure.
Okay, this handbook shall include additionally any other materials, which the board
Reviewed, maybe.
Reviews.
which the board reviews is and approved by the chair. I want to say, or which the general manager thinks advisable, because I think the general manager shouldn't have to. How's that? Handbook
Yeah.
shall include additionally any other materials which the board reviews and is approved and are approved by the chair, or which the general manager thinks advisable. How does that look?
Yep.
That good?
Yep.
Okay. Save that. Okay, any other thoughts from let's set it up so I can see everybody here. Any other thoughts from the staff or the board or the public on? Yes, Brianna.
I was thinking about it from the perspective of our website and what we could share out with people. Is this something where with all the information on here, I don't think it is, but is there a more general version of the handbook you would want to see like on our website? Like anybody could go and download, say, the expectations of a light board. I had briefly talked about this with Tom, and I just wasn't sure if you'd want this to be something that's accessible to everyone, in which case I wouldn't necessarily want like every policy. That's something that would probably get added into it at the end, because that's constantly in theory changing. Like we can, we add new policies and things like that. But the things like the Secretary of State's Guide to Public Records Law, the Attorney General's Handbook, not the contract, HMLP's organization chart, like things that are a little bit more stationary over longer periods of time. Do you want a handbook like that that's just available, like people can download it and see the expectations?
So some of these things are things you want to put on the web and some of them you don't. Right? So you think the policies are already there. Anybody can go and look at them. I don't think the organization chart needs to be on the web, and it's going to change. I don't think the general manager's contract needs to be on the web. But if you want to put links to the open meeting law, public records law, and conflict of interest law, that seems great. And the budget and the capital plan changed too, so. Is that your main idea, like the memo on general manager and board roles, and then the links to the 3 public laws?
Yeah, that were like things that don't change. I could link those things on the light board page if you want, so that anyone who's on the light board or thinking about light board could kind of go in and see. I feel like it's hard when you're thinking about running for something. Not that I think anyone should run, or I don't know. I just didn't know, transparency wise, if there was anything that you'd want to be up there.
I don't know, what do people think? I think you might Tom, you might ask Deidre what she thinks about putting that memo up on the website. I don't know what her thoughts might be on that.
Yeah, I can ask her about that. I mean,
Yeah.
I would think at this point, it's more, public, public document at this point, but I will check with her on that.
Well, yeah, why don't you check with her on
Yeah,
that?
I'll check with her. Yeah, yeah.
And and the policies are already there. And the links to the various public laws, those all seem like good things. What do other people think?
Yeah, I don't think the links to the open meeting law and the public records law would be any issue. And they're on
It's a-
the
a
state
good idea.
website, so, yeah.
It's a good idea. I like the idea that somebody might be thinking about running for the board, and it might interest them to see what the board and the general manager's roles are. I think that'd be helpful. Okay, so is there anybody who does not think those are good things to put on our website? Okay, sounds like it's a yes, Brianna. Anything else we want to change about that? I took it down, but anybody have any further thoughts? Any thoughts from the staff or the public about this handbook for new commissioners? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the policy on a handbook for new board commissioners as written.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, all in favor, Mike,
Aye.
Tyler,
aye.
Laura, aye. Okay,
Laura,
great.
could you just send me that revised?
I will.
This is
Send
so,
it right after
and
the meeting.
we can start putting that together here.
Okay. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a municipal solar update because at the last meeting, I reported on the town's plans to, rather than go to town meeting to ask for funds for a study of municipal roofs for solar purposes, they're going to make an attempt to get a grant to cover those roofs that they have chosen as their first and second tranche of roofs that they would like to put solar on. And the backup plan, if they don't get that grant, which is always possible, is that they will write RFPs for the projects that include the review of the roof conditions in the proposal to come back from the solar developer, because solar developers do that all the time. That's the backup plan. So because of that, I think that the solar task force felt like this was the best way to go, was to agree with the town's plan, because now that they agree that municipal ownership of these arrays is best for the taxpayers, as we have been saying for years, and I think they're finally convinced that that's true. So for that reason, I would entertain a motion from the board to withdraw our proposed article for the town meeting warrant, asking for funds for a study of municipal roofs for the purpose of solar development.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, any thoughts or anybody have anything to say about this, either from the staff or the board or the public?
I guess my question would be a timeline.
So it is wonderful, wonderful working with Patricia, the town's new sustainability coordinator, because she's on it. And they do have a timeline. Right now, they're already working on developing the list of roofs, and a draft of that has already come back over to the solar task force to review. And I think, Brianna, you've probably seen that list. I have it, but I haven't looked at it yet. And the timeline is, right now, you can't apply for another meta grant when you already have one. And they have one ongoing that is just wrapping up. And they expect there to be another round of funding in the spring. And so they're planning on wrapping up that grant, and then they will apply on that very next round of funding, which is expected to be the spring, but they haven't announced it yet, but usually there is one. So that's the timeline for that. And I think the turnaround is pretty quick on that. So I would think that by the fall, we'll know either we're going with um, Meta Grant, or we're going to be putting out RFPs, including the requirements of the roofs.
And there's one other large project that's
And let me just add, and the end goal here is to go to town meeting in the spring with funding for some subset of solar arrays. Sorry, Mike, go
so
ahead.
that's 2026.
Yes. That's the overall timeline.
Okay. In the meantime, there's one large project that's potential that's not a roof. Is there any way we could move that forward, possibly?
And which project are we?
landfill?
Okay, that's a small project. That's the reason we haven't been able to get it built, is because it's so small, but it is included in the first tranche of, we've put it on the list, so it's gonna be,
But it's not a roof. It's
yeah, no, it's okay, it's okay. The water department also has a possibility of a ground-based system that's gonna be included in this, so. But the thing about the light plant, the light plant controlled top of the top of the landfill currently is under control of the light plant because we were going to build solar on it. We don't need a study. That has already been designed.
Exactly.
And so we don't need the study for that. We don't need a study for the public safety building, which was designed up to current standards of solar ready. And so some of these things we should be able to go right at, but we wanted to have over a megabyte worth of project to put into the RFP because we learned from other MLPs that solar developers are more interested, a bigger project is more appealing, obviously. So we need to have enough to add up to at least of a megabyte of project before we put out the RFPs. That's the idea.
Yeah. Over a megawatt, right?
Watt. Sorry.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? Okay, we have the floor vote to withdraw our article for town meeting on funds for study for roofs for solar. And a second, and all in favor, Tyler,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Laura, aye. Okay, great, thank you. Next on the agenda is approving meeting minutes. I gather we never got to the December 17th minutes. Is that why it's on the list? We have the minutes for the last meeting, but
yeah,
also December 17th.
There was an issue with the December 17th meeting minutes. I think, Michael, you might have had an issue with it that we couldn't find. So we were going to come back to that.
Okay, I'm drawing a blank on that, Tom.
Okay.
Would you be prepared to approve these minutes, the December 17th minutes? Or Mike, is there something else you want to look at? You're reading the minutes.
I was fine with the minutes from
Oh,
17, but if I raise something in the
okay.
past, I can go through them again.
Well, what would you like to do? Do you want to postpone the December 17th minute approval until you've had that opportunity, or are you ready to pass on that?
I guess we should, yes.
We should postpone.
Yes.
Okay. Then now we're to the minutes of February. So we'll put that on the agenda for the next meeting. And the minutes of February 11th. Any changes desired to the meeting minutes of February 11th? I do not see any, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes of February 11th.
Sorry, hold on 1 sec. So I had a question on
Okay.
the pumped hydro facility. I think, Tom, you were going to go back to Ken Stambler to try and ascertain how much was pumped and how much was pure run of river. And this is in relation to the statement that Laura, you made about the research you did, which had to do with the fossil fuel that was used to pump the water back up to the dam. I understand that at night there's a whole mix of different fuels that are used, whether wind's blowing. Obviously there's no solar at night, but likewise There could be solar that is being used during the day to pump water up in the afternoon to be released later at night. So I'm just a little bit uncomfortable about making a statement. If we can maybe reference that statement that you made, or substantiate it that it's not necessarily the whole board's opinion. I just feel uncomfortable
So
having
does
that
it,
there in the minutes.
definitely, that's something I said.
Yeah,
Does it read that way or? Um,
well, to say that it's fossil fuel that's being used to pump the water up and that's renewable is the hydro is renewable. We get 7 or 8% of our power mix from that hydro, which is renewable. But I just think what we've got to be careful of what we put in the minutes on that.
So what we put in the minutes is what we said or not. And did I say it in the minutes or did you say it? Let me, or did who's, all right.
I think you said that, or the minutes said that you'd done some research and
Found that some of the neighbors of the pump project oppose the certification because of the environmental damage that is being done to the river, as well as the fact that it is sold as renewable energy, but they use fossil fuels to pump the water. So
my question was,
that's what I actually said.
yes, no, I'm not arguing,
So-
but what I'm uncomfortable with it being said by a board member based on somebody else's research without clarifying what percentage that actually is in the overall.
Okay, so we can't put that, what wasn't said, back into the
Right.
minutes from that meeting. But if you're uncomfortable with this statement appearing in the minutes, we don't have to put that in the minutes. Why don't we end with oppose the certification because of the environmental damage that is being done to the river? And drop the clause about it is sold as renewable energy, but they use fossil fuels to pump the water.
That's fine with me.
Okay, I am willing to do that. Any other comments or questions, Tyler or Mike?
I saw a couple of typos. There's one where MLP plural is capitalized, small point. I don't know what an MLPS is, so maybe just change that. And then there's another date that is 225, not 2025.
Probably would help if you can you
And
say what those are?
That
So
was
that-
for the weekend event on March 22nd. It says March 22nd, 225, not 2025.
Oh. Okay,
I'll find them.
okay. Great, thanks for that, Mike. Any other comments or thoughts on the minutes, Mike or Tyler? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes with the changes that we have discussed.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, Mike,
Aye.
Tyler,
Aye.
Laura, aye. Okay, thanks. And we will return, Mike, see if you can take a look at those
I will.
February
Yeah.
17th minutes so we can get them done. Okay, we're up to updates. Transmission project. I don't know if there's anything other than the EFSB to report on.
Not really. Once those hearings are done, then we'll go into evidentiary hearings with the siting board. So again, the whole process, I'm told, takes about a year and a half from the start. A year and a half, well, 2 years from the start. So I'm assuming we're a few months into it now. Where we filed in November, so.
Okay. And capital projects, anything going
Yeah,
on?
capital projects, we started work on Circuit 9, which is down by the high school. So that project has started. The transmission project to replace the insulators, we did get the license from the MBTA
Oh,
just
good.
last week. We just got that, so we'll be getting that bid package together based on that information and getting that out. I don't know that we'll have it out in time for the the spring season, but if we don't get it this spring, we'll get it in the fall.
Well, that's
So-
good news.
Sometime this year, is that correct, Tom?
Sometime this year, yep.
Good.
Yeah, typically it's, obviously the summer is not a time they typically give us those
We
lines.
want it during white
Yeah,
loads.
yeah.
Yep.
And that's it on the capital
Okay.
projects.
I noticed the financials were not on the agenda, so maybe
That
let
was-
me encourage my board members to look at the financials. And
That
if
was
you
my
have
mistake.
questions, please contact Tom about it.
Yeah.
And I think that is the end of our agenda at this point.
Just one other thing to offer, we do have a table at there's a fair, career fair at the high school on April 2nd. So we'll be there with a table to just let kids know that there are opportunities within the electric distribution industry for them, as either linemen or engineers or that type of thing. So,
That's great, because the Hingham Police and the fire department are always there, so.
Yep.
That's a good idea. Okay, thank you, everyone. I think that we are at the end of our agenda for today, and have a good evening. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
can I just offer one more thing?
Oh, yeah.
We are on one line now for transmission line. Eversource has one of the lines out for maintenance, so we are on one line for the remainder of this week anyway.
Ooh,
A 1 week
okay.
outage,
What's that?
a 1 week planned outage.
Correct, yep.
Good deal.
Okay, seems to be going okay so far.
Yeah. Fingers crossed, no high wind.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I'll need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, Tyler,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Laura, aye. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good night.